Depending on who you ask, the United Nations, FIFA, or the Olympic Committee, you'll get a different answer every single time. Is it 195, 197, 206, or maybe even more than 250? Today we're diving deep into the complex, messy, and often controversial world of international borders. We'll explore the history, the politics, and the phantom nations that exist in the shadows of the global stage. By the end of this video, you'll realize that country isn't just a geographical term, it's a political statement. Before we can count them, we have to define them. What actually is a country? In political science, we use the Montevideo Convention of 1933 as the gold standard. According to this international treaty, a state must possess 4 essential qualifications. First, a permanent population. People have to live there year-round. Second, a defined territory. You need borders that other people recognize. Third, a government. Someone needs to be in charge of making laws. And fourth, the capacity to enter into relations with other states. This last one is the most important. You need to be able to trade with and sign treaties with other countries. On paper, it sounds simple. But in the real world, these lines get blurred. Some places have a government and people but no recognized territory. Others have territory but no functioning government. This is where the confusion begins. Most people look to the United Nations for the definitive count. For many, if you aren't in the UN, you aren't a real country. According to the UN, there are 195 countries. This total is broken down into 193 member states and 2 observer states. The member states are the fully recognized sovereign nations that have a seat and a vote in the General Assembly. The 2 observer states are the Vatican City and Palestine. The Vatican City is the smallest country in the world, ruled by the Pope. It is an independent state, but chooses not to be a full member of the UN to maintain its religious neutrality. Then there's Palestine. Palestine's status is one of the most debated topics in modern history. While 138 of the 193 UN members recognize it as a state, it remains an observer because it doesn't have full consensus from the major world powers. If we stop at 195, we're ignoring millions of people who live in places that function exactly like countries but lack the official stamp of approval. Let's talk about Taiwan. Taiwan has its own democratically elected government, its own military, its own passport, and its own currency. Economically, it's a global powerhouse, producing the world's most advanced computer chips. Yet because of pressure from China, only a small number of countries officially recognize it as a sovereign state. Is Taiwan a country? In practice, yes. By law, it depends on which diplomat you ask. Then there's Kosovo. It declared independence from Serbia in 2008. Over 100 UN members recognize it, but because of international political blockades, it cannot join the UN. There are others too, like Western Sahara, Abkhazia, and South Ossetia. These are partially recognized states. If you include them, your count easily jumps past 200. Now, let's look at it through the lens of sports. If you're a soccer fan, you know that the FIFA World Cup feels like it represents the whole world. FIFA actually has 211 member associations. That's 16 more than the United Nations. This is because FIFA allows constituent nations to play separately. For example, the United Kingdom is 1 UN member, but in FIFA it's split into 4: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The International Olympic Committee has its own count too, 206 national Olympic committees. The Olympics include territories like Puerto Rico, American Samoa, and Hong Kong. These places aren't independent countries, but in the spirit of the games, they compete under their own flags. We often hear about places that feel like countries but aren't quite there yet. These are known as dependent territories. Take Greenland, for example. It's massive and has its own culture and language, but it is technically a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It handles its own internal affairs, but Denmark takes care of its defense and foreign policy. The United States has several of these, like Puerto Rico and Guam. People born there are US citizens, but they are territories, not states or independent countries. The number of countries is never static. It's a living, breathing number. In 1945, when the UN was founded, there were only 51 members. Most of Africa and Asia were still under European colonial rule. As independence movements swept the globe, dozens of new nations were born. In 1991, the collapse of the Soviet Union turned one country into 15. Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and the Baltic states all emerged as sovereign nations. In 2011, South Sudan became the world's youngest country after a decades-long struggle. History shows us that borders are not written in stone, they are written in ink. Let's look at how these nations are distributed across the continents. Africa has the most countries with 54. Asia has roughly 48 to 49 countries, including the giants China and India. Europe has about 44 countries, including those that span across 2 continents like Russia and Turkey. North America has 23 countries, covering everything from Canada to the Caribbean islands. South America has 12 independent nations. Oceania has 14 countries, including Australia and the Pacific Island nations. Antarctica has 0. It is governed by a treaty for science and peace. The scale of these countries is truly mind-blowing. Russia is the largest country on Earth, covering 11 time zones. Vatican City is the smallest at just 0.19 square miles. You can walk across the entire country of the Vatican in about 20 minutes. Then there is population. India is now the world's most populous nation with over 1.4 billion people. Contrast that with Tuvalu, where the population is less than 13,000. Yet, in the eyes of international law, they both hold the status of a country. There are even micronations, places where individuals claim to have started their own country. The most famous is Sealand, a World War II sea fort off the coast of England. It has its own royalty, stamps and coins, even though no major government recognizes it. Will there be more countries in the future? Most likely. There are active independence movements in Scotland, Catalonia and Bougainville. The world is constantly changing, and the maps must change with it. So what's the final answer? If you're taking a geography test, it's 195. If you're watching the Olympics, it's 206. If you're a soccer fan, it's 211. The truth is, a country is more than just lines on a map. It's about identity, history, and the struggle for recognition. Every border you see was fought for, negotiated, or inherited. The world is a complex place, and the number of countries is just the beginning of the story. What do you think? Should places like Taiwan or Scotland be counted as independent nations? The answer depends on who you ask. Thanks for watching this deep dive into our global map.